Hey everyone, it's Lindsay, and I'm here today with a quick get well card. Now, today is also the first day of the Coffee Lovers Blog Hop, so I also wanted to go along with that theme. And Craftin Desert Divas had this great little ice bear digital stamp holding this little mug of coffee. It's so cute. And I thought it also went well with the get well card, and I needed one because it's the time of year when everyone's sick. So I really needed to make one, and this fit both bills. So I started out and I just printed off my digital stamp, and I didn't do any crop marks with it this time, so I could go ahead and use this scalloped rectangle die from the Fancy Frames die set to go ahead and cut it out. And I wanted that little ice bear to be on the left hand side. Now I also printed off onto watercolor paper. Make sure that your printer can handle watercolor paper before you send it through. Mine can. One of the things that happens whenever I do send it through, though, is because a laser printer heat sets its ink onto the paper, its toner onto the paper, it doesn't set very well because it is a heavier paper. And I'll show you how I'll fix that later. But I went ahead and printed off onto watercolor paper so I could watercolor my image in. Now this is going to be a very simple card. So I really want to spend extra time, add in a little bit of detail with my coloring, just to give that card a little something extra and some more interest. I try to do that whenever I make my clean and simple cards. You want to take your time with your coloring. So I'm using my distress inks for my watercolor today, and I've got a piece of white cardstock that I've laminated that I use as my palette. I'm using Christmas colors here to color in my little bear. You could use whatever you wanted, but I just wanted to go along with the Christmas theme or the holiday theme of the blog hop that is happening. So that's why I chose these colors. And also, if somebody's not feeling great, really bright colors I think just help bring a better mood. So I'm using some reds and some greens here, and I also used some very light browns to color in my bear. I wanted him to have a little bit of color, but not very much. Now, whenever I'm doing my watercoloring, I'm putting one layer down, letting that dry, and I'm actually using my heat gun to dry to speed up the process. And then I'm coming back in with another layer to deepen up the colors, and sometimes even a third layer as well to add in some definition. Now for my little cup, I really wanted it to stand out, so I'm using peacock feathers, which is a very bright blue, to color that in. Now for the snow, I used a little bit of pumice stone, just a very tiny bit, and then to finish this off, I am going to go around the entire image with some tumbled glass distress marker. I put a very thin line and then really fan it out with my water to lighten up the color and fade it off into the white. Now you can see I didn't worry about missing my snowflakes at all. I'll fix that in a minute. But the first thing I wanted to do is fix all of my lines. So while I was watercoloring, my hand was brushing over the image, and just the water in general is going to take some of those lines away, and they're not going to be as dark as when they printed. Because I used a heavier paper, that heat doesn't get as good and hot on this paper and set that ink as well as it needs to be. So in order to fix that, I'm using my micron pen here, and I'm just going to very carefully go over all the lines of the image. Now, you could do this beforehand if you wanted to, before you put on your watercolor. Because this is a micron pen, it's not going to run with the water. If you don't have a pen that is waterproof, wait until afterwards. But I like to wait until afterwards anyway, just because if I do make a mistake, I can use this line to hide it a little bit. So if I ever go outside the lines or I get a little bleeding, this fixes all of that. So I'm just taking my time and going over all these lines, and I won't make you sit through the whole thing. It does get a little tedious and a little boring, but I went over the entire image and also the eyes as well to really darken those up. Now, I didn't worry about missing my snowflakes when I put on my blue watercolor, so in order to fix that, I'm just taking a white gel pen and I'm going to fill in every single snowflake so it's nice and bright and white. And even if you were to miss this, watercolor paper isn't a true white color, so I like to go back in with anything that is supposed to be really a white color and fill it in with my gel pen. I also filled in the little top ball on his hat to make it nice and white, and then I'm going to add little bitty accents here and there all over my image just to add a little bit more interest. So I'm doing a few on the cup, and that will make it look like a more rounded cup. And then I'll also put a few on the bear's nose, on his hat, and also on his scarf. As usual, when making your clean and simple cards, you've got to take your interest where you can get it. And this, I've seen it on other people's cards and they do it really well. I'm just learning how to do it. But this just adds so much interest to colored images. So I will just finish up with that little ball on the top of his hat. And I thought I was done, but then I went back in and I added just a few little minor details on his scarf and also on his little arms, because his arms would be round and it just helped them look a little bit more round. So this card was very simple to put together. I started with my A2 white top folding card base, and I like to keep a white card base underneath just because I don't like to add in a white insert to write in. If I can keep it white and then add a layer of cardstock on top of that, I like to do that. So I laid down an A2 size black cardstock panel right on top of that, so it looks as if it's a black card base. But inside I've got a nice clean white surface to write on. Now I just put some fun foam on the back of that scallop panel and popped it onto the card. Now for my sentiment, I'm using the Wishful Thought sentiment set. My camera wasn't on when I did this, so I apologize. I'm going over after the fact, but I wanted to show you how I did this. These are my favorite kind of sentiment sets. You have all of these different pieces in it, different words that you can mix and match and create different sentiments for whatever the occasion might be. Now, not only that, you could take these and mix them with other sentiment sets as well. So you really are left with unlimited options. But one thing I find hard whenever I'm using these is finding out how I want to piece it together and how I want to put the sentiment on my card. Whenever you have a whole sentiment, say it's the entire sending get well wishes, you can only stamp it one way. But with these, you have so many different options. So what I like to do is stamp both of my sentiments that I'm using onto pieces of acetate. I'm just using little leftover pieces that I have from different projects. You can use the front of your stamp set as well. I just stamp that down with black ink, and then I can go in, place these on top of my card, and find out exactly where I want to put it. So if I want to put it over the bear a little bit, so then I'm not testing it out and ruining my card if I don't like it. This way I can see exactly what it's going to look like. I can play around with both of them in different positions, and I can put them exactly where I want them. Now, once you find out where you want them, you can go ahead and stamp onto your actual cardstock. And I use my Misty for stamping. I didn't want to mess up my sentiment after putting so much work into the card itself. But all I needed to do was wipe off that ink with a wet wipe, and this card is good to go. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as always, I will leave you with just a few pictures of the finished card. For more information on this card, you can go to the Craftin Desert Divas blog. I will leave that link in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and happy crafting.